a plant that spends its entire life submerged in murky, muddy swamp water and yet always looks immaculate, not a single speck of dirt, as if filth simply doesn't touch it. How is that possible, and what does it have to do with the paint on our walls and the fabric that sheds a spilled coffee? This is the story of how one observation under a microscope turned our understanding of cleanliness upside down, about a botanist who asked what seemed like a foolish question, and about a leaf that washes itself, no running water, no chemicals, no effort at all. Everything around us gets dirty. A car is coated in dust within a week. Windows cloud over. Building walls turn grey with soot. We scrub, rinse, scour, and pour liters of cleaning products down the drain. Cleanliness, for us, is a never-ending fight. And yet something figured out that problem once and for all without lifting a finger. That something is the lotus. It grows in ponds and marshes, its roots buried in dark silt, in murky water thick with particles, spores, and microbes. You could hardly imagine a dirtier place. Anything living there, you'd think, should be covered in filth from top to bottom. Now look at its leaves. Enormous, flat, vivid green, and perfectly clean. They rise straight out of the filthy water and look as though someone just wiped them down. No dust, no silt, no stains. From the heart of the mud, spotless. For thousands of years, people noticed this and couldn't explain it. In ancient cultures, the lotus became a symbol of purity, precisely because it rises unstained from the mire. It was revered, worshipped, painted, and praised. Yet nobody knew the most important thing, how it actually does it. The most mesmerizing part is visible in the rain. Droplets don't spread across the leaf in little puddles the way they do on glass. They form perfect, gleaming spheres. Tight, round, like drops of mercury. And at the slightest tilt of the leaf, they roll straight off. And here's the key moment. As they roll, those spheres collect all the dust and dirt from the leaf, like tiny rolling vacuum cleaners. The leaf doesn't just repel water, it cleans itself. Every rainfall is a full wash, without a single movement. How can a leaf end up cleaner than everything we scrub with brushes and detergents? What does it have that glass, paint, and fabric don't? The answer didn't come quickly. And it came from a man who had spent his life looking at plants up close. Very, very close. His name is Wilhelm Barthlott, a German botanist, a man obsessed with plant surfaces with what leaves, petals, and stems look like under extreme magnification. Where the ordinary eye sees simply something green, he saw entire landscapes. His main instrument was the scanning electron microscope, a device that magnifies thousands of times and reveals a surface in microscopic detail. In the 1970s, Barthlott was examining hundreds of different plants under it, and he kept running into one nagging little problem. To look at a leaf under that microscope, you first had to wash it carefully to remove dust, otherwise specks would ruin the image. So Barthlott washed sample after sample, every single one except one. Lotus leaves were always already clean. They never needed washing at all. Most people would have been glad for less work. But Barthlott stopped and wondered, why do some leaves need scrubbing, while others never do? Why does the lotus stay clean on its own? And he turned his microscope, not toward the dirt, but toward the surface of the leaf itself. What he found was a surprise. The lotus leaf, which feels perfectly smooth to the touch, turned out under the microscope to be nothing of the sort. The entire surface was covered in tiny bumps. A dense carpet of microscopic hills, completely invisible to the naked eye. Imagine shrinking 1,000 times and standing on that leaf. Beneath your feet, not a flat field, but an endless ridge of rounded hills packed tightly together. What feels smooth to us is actually a complex landscape, just too small for us to notice. But that wasn't all. On top of each bump sat even smaller structures, wax nanocrystals, hundreds of times smaller than the hills themselves. Roughness on top of roughness, hills covered in hillocks. Nature had built texture on two separate levels, and that, it turns out, makes all the difference. And here is the thing that turns everything on its head. We tend to think, for a surface to repel grime and clean easily, it should be smooth, polished, without a single rough patch. It turns out the opposite is true. The finer and more cleverly arranged the roughness, the more powerfully the leaf repels water. To understand why, you need one simple concept: contact angle. That's the angle at which a water droplet meets a surface. If it spreads flat, like a pancake, the angle is small. If it forms a sphere, the angle is large. This angle tells you how friendly the surface is with water. Drop water on glass, and it spreads into a flat puddle. Small angle, the surface loves water. On a lotus leaf, water gathers into an almost perfect sphere. The angle exceeds 150 degrees. That's no longer just not getting wet. That's a completely different category of surface. This category has a name: superhydrophobicity. Hydrophobic means water repelling. The prefix super means taken to the extreme. The droplet barely touches the surface. It practically floats on it, making contact at only the very tips. Where does the sphere come from in the first place? Water has surface tension. It always tries to contract, to cover as little area as possible. If water has nothing to grip on a surface, surface tension wins and pulls the droplet into a ball. The lotus simply gives water nothing to grip. And here's how. Air gets trapped between the microscopic bumps, a razor-thin cushion of air, so the droplet sits not on the surface itself, but on the very tips of the hills, above that air. In effect, it floats above the leaf, rather than lying on it. The numbers here are striking. A droplet on a lotus leaf makes contact with it only at tiny points, just a couple of % of its total area. Everything else is air beneath it. 98% of the droplet never touches the leaf at all. That's what barely touching really means. And since the droplet barely touches the leaf, there's nothing to hold it in place. Zero grip. Tilt the leaf a few degrees and the sphere rolls right off, not sliding, not smearing, but rolling cleanly, like a bead across a polished table. Now put it all together. Dust particles and dirt also sit on the tips of those bumps, barely touching the leaf. A droplet rolls by. Dirt sticks to water far more readily than to the leaf, so the droplet simply picks it up on the way. The leaf cleans itself, because that's how its surface is built. Compare that with a regular wall or pane of glass. There, water spreads out and drags dirt across the surface, smearing it around and leaving streaks. On the lotus, it's the opposite. Water doesn't smear the dirt. It collects it and carries it away. Same water, same dirt, completely opposite result. And here's an important nuance. Plenty of things repel water, a raincoat, a greasy pan, a duck's feathers, but they still get dirty. Simply, not getting wet isn't enough. For a surface to also clean itself, the droplet must barely touch it and roll off easily. And that's not given by chemistry. It's given by shape. And this is Barthlott's central discovery. It's not the wax itself that does it. Dozens of plants have a waxy coating and still get dirty. What matters is not the chemical composition of the surface, but its shape, that microscopic roughness. Geometry turned out to matter more than chemistry. Think about that. Take a smooth, waxy surface, it will get dirty. Apply the exact same wax, but as microscopic bumps, and it becomes self-cleaning. The substance hasn't changed by a single molecule, only the shape has changed, and that alone was enough. Barthlott studied the phenomenon across many plants, described it rigorously and scientifically, and gave it a name: the lotus effect. A simple name for a principle that turned out to be far larger than one exotic flower. In essence, he had found a universal recipe for cleanliness. And if shape is all that matters, then shape can be copied. You don't need to grow a lotus, you just need to reproduce its texture on something else. A wall, a window, a piece of fabric. Copy not the plant, but the geometry of its surface, and make ordinary things clean themselves. Easy to say. In practice, try creating a controlled texture measured in thousandths of a millimeter, and make it durable, and spread it across an entire building facade. Many doubted it would ever leave the laboratory. What was needed was someone to take the idea all the way to a real product. And in 1999, it happened. The company Stowe launched a facade paint called Lotusin, the world's first commercial product that cleans itself with rain. The lotus effect stepped off the pages of scientific papers and onto the walls of buildings. The principle is straightforward. As the paint dries, it forms that same microscopic texture on the wall, a man-made replica of the leaf surface. When rain falls, droplets form spheres, roll down, and carry away dust, soot, and grime. The building, in effect, washes itself, and the difference is enormous. The facade stays clean longer. No need to hire industrial rope workers with pressure washers, less frequent repainting, less money, less chemicals, less water. One well-designed microstructure, and the building looks after itself for years. And biomimicry became a business. The company Stowe holds the patents and the registered trademark lotus effect. What had been, for millions of years, simply a property of a marsh plant became a patented technology. The journey from pond to building facade took just a couple of decades, but paint was only the beginning. Once you understand the principle, it starts working everywhere. Cleanliness and dryness matter, and there are countless such surfaces around us. The lotus effect began spreading across them, one by one. Glass, windows that barely need washing, rain rinses them clean on its own. Shop fronts, skyscraper, glazing, car windscreens, anywhere that reaching with a cloth is inconvenient, expensive, or dangerous. A droplet rolls off the glass, is clean again. Fabrics, clothing from which spilled coffee and wine simply roll away, leaving no stain. Jackets where rain beads up and flies off with a light shake. And this isn't a coating that washes out after a month, it's the texture of the fabric itself that repels water. Roof tiles and cladding panels that don't accumulate dirt and mold. Solar panels that stay clean on their own, and a clean panel catches more light and generates more power. Here, cleanliness isn't about aesthetics. It's about efficiency and money. And then there's ice. On a properly designed superhydrophobic surface, it's harder for water to linger and freeze, and ice that does form holds less firmly and sheds more easily. This is a promising development for aircraft wings, power lines, and wind turbines, all seriously threatened by ice buildup. And most unexpectedly, medicine. Surfaces to which bacteria struggle to adhere. Less contact means fewer chances for microbial films to grow on instruments, implants, and tubes. The same lotus principle: if bacteria can barely touch the surface, there's nothing for them to grip. And running through all of this is a single idea. By controlling the microscopic shape of a surface, we control what the world sticks to it. Water, dirt, ice, microbes, all of it is determined not where we're used to looking, but at the level of tiny bumps. Let's be honest about the catch, though. Man-made lotus surfaces are still fragile. That delicate nanostructure gradually wears away, gets clogged with grease and dust, and the magic fades. What holds up on a living leaf season after season breaks down much faster on our imitations. Because a living leaf has something paint doesn't. It constantly regrows its waxy layer and repairs its texture on its own. The lotus didn't just build a superb surface, it knows how to maintain it. And on this front, nature is still comfortably ahead of us. That's exactly what scientists are chasing right now. Not just replicating the lotus effect, but making it robust and long-lasting, something that won't wear away for years. A self-cleaning surface that fixes itself. The leaf already knows how. We're still learning. And now the principle behind all of this. Nature solved the problem of staying clean without a single drop of detergent. Not with chemistry, but with geometry. Not with force, but with shape. For centuries, we've been scrubbing the world with brushes, while the leaf simply has a surface built the right way. And nature didn't get there for the sake of beauty. A leaf caked in dirt and flooded with water breathes poorly and captures light poorly, which means it feeds the plant poorly. A dirty leaf is a hungry lotus. For it, cleanliness is a matter of survival. Evolution simply left no other option. And that is the whole lesson of Barthlott. The answer had been sitting on the surface of every lotus leaf for millions of years, literally on the surface. Thousands of people walked past and saw nothing but a beautiful, clean leaf. He was the one who looked closely enough to see the bumps. And the entire technology grew not from a complex formula, but from a simple question: why doesn't this leaf need washing? One person didn't brush off a small detail, he asked why, and entire industries gained a new way to keep things clean. Sometimes the whole secret is in the ability to be surprised by the ordinary. Remember where we started. For thousands of years, the lotus was a symbol of purity rising from the mud. People poured poetry, faith, and philosophy into that image. The answer turned out to be entirely concrete, the microscopic architecture of a surface. An ancient symbol and precise physics converged in a single leaf. And this changes our very idea of what cleanliness is. Cleanliness doesn't always mean scrub harder or pour on more chemicals. Sometimes it's simply the right shape at the right scale. Not a war on dirt, but a surface that dirt has nothing to grip onto in the first place. Imagine a world where nearly everything works this way. Windows that never need cleaning, walls that don't stain, fabric that sheds any spill, instruments where bacteria can't survive. And all of it, not some new aggressive chemical, but a copy of a single marsh leaf. And the lotus is just one story among many. The burdock burr gave us Velcro, the kingfisher's beak reshaped high-speed trains, an ordinary leaf taught our glass and walls to clean themselves. Start paying closer attention to nature, and the hints are visible literally everywhere. And here's a thought to close on. We flood the world with cleaning products to achieve cleanliness. A plant solved the same problem with shape, and the solution was right in front of us for 1,000 years, just too small to see. The strongest answers are often invisible until you look closely enough. Thank you for being with us. If you find the idea inspiring that nature is our greatest teacher, share this story with someone who still enjoys being amazed by the world. We're already preparing the next one, because nature still holds so many secrets waiting to be discovered. See you next time. Subscribe.